The leadership of SASCO is saying they are deeply concerned about the recent escalation of violence at the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape. The university has now suspended all activities due to protests that led to the torching of 2 buildings and 2 students being injured. Police have arrested 8 people on charges of public violence and business burglary after the demonstrations escalated earlier there this week. The student organization believes that this violence is a product of systemic and structural failures by the university. Let's bring in SASCO's Deputy President, Paseka Molete. Paseka, good morning. Thank you for your time. The smoke might have settled a little bit, but everyone in the country, of course, is focused on the damage that was caused at the institution and also where the students are this morning, if there's been any movement in either negotiations or campus activities by way of learning. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Iman, and good morning to all our viewers at home. Let me take this opportunity to thank you and say that as the South African Student Congress, we condemn the acts of violence that are happening in the University of UFH. Of course, you are deeply concerned and disappointed by the management. You would recall that during Christmas fall, if we can take a step back, when students were crying out of the challenges that they were facing, universities, with their management, they rather hired private security. They rather called on police to shoot on our students. And it acted up to be an act of violence, which is something that we condemn. University management must descend down and speak to our students in a table, find solutions, and rather listen rather than calling on police and security to come and shoot our students.
But Paseka, by your own version, there has been a recalcitrance on the part of the university management to engage. In fact, if I go back to interviews that were done by our colleagues in the media like Biz News, Grant Abbott, the GS of the National Tertiary Education Union, together with the now suspended SRC President Apelele Kalakatla, we're talking about a culture of intimidation, talking about a culture essentially of no progress when it comes to any kind of negotiations. Even then, this is last month already, calling for the VC to step aside. So a lot of the stuff you already know, talks are not going to resolve. Why not try to adopt a different measure to put the grievances of the students on the table and to actually get somewhere before it escalated into the scenes that we've seen, whether or not you believe students were involved?
You know, Iman, you must just be honest as a country and say that this is as a result of people not doing their jobs. If everyone was doing their job without being requested to do it, without being demanded to do it, we would not be here. If student issues were attended to on time, those who are responsible to resolve them on time, would not be here. Students will not be marching, students will not be closing down the campus. But the closure of campuses is of a result of frustration, deep frustrations by where students can say, we can no longer breathe, but the only way that we know is to march and perhaps call the attention of the management to come down. But rather, when you come down with arrogance, you come down without listening. It's either your way or the hard way. It's not the South Africa that we want. We want a South Africa that is democratic, where we have our management can sit down and discuss these issues and find out the better solutions to do it. Students are willing to engage, let me tell you. Leadership of the SRC was willing to engage. How do you engage when you suspend our fellow SRC president?
Well, this is what I'm putting to you.
How do you
sorry, go ahead, Paseka.
Why would you come up with private security in the first place? Because once there's a march, you say, okay, guys, there's a march. Can we call on your management and sit down? Within the first day, we can resolve this and say, guys, perhaps out of this is a long run. We can solve them the long, but immediately, can we do 1, 2, 3, 4 to show actions that we are intending to solve?
I'll come back to the strategy. I'll come back to the strategy and tactics. And I'm so sorry, I seem to be rushing. It's just we had scheduled more time, but because we started a bit later, we have very limited time, and I want to get through as much as I possibly can. You have some theories about the destruction of property on campus.
Yes, we strongly condemn. We don't support the burning of our infrastructure and destroying of our infrastructure.
Yeah, but who do you think is doing it?
Remember, at a time like this, there are opportunities. I'll make an example about this tender entrepreneurs who always wants to do business with you. They can take opportunity of that and torch our university. There is no any student leader or student who can burn their own buildings that they know that they need in the next coming future for themselves and the future generation. We can't do that. But we have people who will take criminals within our university systems and college systems that will take advantage and ban, because people will say to our students, how would you ban your own place that you need, desperately need? You need its upgrade, you need its development, you need more of it, but there's no student who can go in and ban. It's like someone burning their own home, but at the end of the day, they expect to have a bed in it. It's not possible.
Look, Paseka, it's not unprecedented in South Africa, but I take your point, as you say, that there could be opportunistic forces at play. I mean, we are very mindful of the fact that just yesterday, in regards to the 171 million rand fraud scandal at the institution, those accused were in court. Given, as you say, students want to negotiate in good faith, they're not and distancing themselves from these acts of violence. Are students going to give evidence to police about who they might have seen so that we can get to these, as you say, these criminal elements that are infiltrating marches and protests such as yours?
I can tell you and assure you that our members, especially students, are willing to participate in this and ensure that our law enforcement officials can get to the bottom of who touched our. We strongly condemn that as South African students. Our students are going to participate. They're going to assist our police law enforcement officers, and they are willing to go. I will repeat this like a broken record. We are willing to engage, but the university must not send down with private security who are bored and who are shooting down our students. I think this issue of policing you must look into. That policing is not about shooting at people. You must resolve. You must be the mediator between the two parties that are not okay. Our police enforcement, do they even have negotiators? People who can negotiate and say, management, the only way to solve this, can you sit down with the students' leadership? But if you think our student leadership is not reasonable, why don't you do it a public hearing as a management and conduct a public hearing where we can consult one another about the issues that students are facing? Our students cannot breathe. We are tired of the management that is corrupt, that is our management that is arrogant. South Africa does not have a place of management that is arrogant. We are a democratic country that must sit down and resolve whatever issue that we are facing. We can't be continuing like this. We don't want the acts of this must fall to come back where we've lost a lot of infrastructure.
But Paseka, I'm going to come back to our interview in just a moment, but just to remind our viewers, you saw a live picture there of the flight path of the aircraft that's bringing home the remains of Nathi Mthethwa. It is close to touching down. I don't know if we can have that visual there. It has actually touched down. Our reporters are at the OR Tambo International Airport. Flight AF 990 now landing with his remains, and the rest of the public proceedings insofar as his memorials and his funeral will also be covered quite extensively by us as a channel. So we'll take you back there in just a moment. Paseka, let's just go back to, and it's interesting you say you are willing to engage in a public hearing. I want to know whether that's been put to the DHET, the Department of Higher Education and Training, to rather do that and bring these proceedings into the public domain. But I wanted to say to you, as we observe what's happening there, Warsaw as well, the Walter Sisulu University, a number of these issues are systemic when it comes to the way that police react on campus. And I'm just thinking, would not a new strategy from yourselves as student leaders be to consult others who've walked in your shoes? People like Muzi Sikakane, who was a SRC leader in Wits, for example, in 94, 95. People like Jerome September, UCT, in 1999, to think of more strategic ways. The current ways are not working of engagement for you or the students. What's your next move?
Our next move is we are going to do everything in our powers that for example, we have as through South African Student Congress national structure, we've been trying to engage with the Department of Higher Education to say, we can't allow our situation to be like this. May you please intervene and ensure that there's a smooth talks and then we can find a sustainable resolution. One of the problems, Iman, I'm happy that you are mentioning this. Perhaps we need to find better ways. But when you go to meetings, when you write memorandums, when you submit the letters of concerns that are not addressed to, what is the best way that you can do? Because the best way is that I write to you, you write back. We sit in a meeting, we say we can do this, we can't do this, but this one can be achieved in this strategy. Rather than, why do we have to respond by private security? This is the same reason we always raise that our universities have a lot of money in it. You see them during strikes that our universities have a lot of money in their reserves just to have private security shooting down our students. But they can't resolve issues of outstanding balances. We should be using this money to resolve the crisis in our country where many of young people are financially excluded from studying. Second, they should be using this to upgrade their infrastructure. You remember in January we were frustrated by the lack of accommodation in our country.
I
But
gotta
the
go,
universities have a lot of money.